major communication basics we've been introducing with Iga. That way you guys can practice this through the weekend and get comfortable with the mechanics, get a feel for it for you guys, and also to continue her practice at home so that she learns that this communication system applies to family members and handlers in addition to just us in the facility. So we generally work the dogs on a combination of a reward-based communication system, so things like treats, toys, really direct rewarding of behaviors that we want to encourage them to happen more. And we balance that with a pressure-based communication system, which is similar to what you would see when working with horses. We're not dependent just on food in order to talk to the dog, and on its very basic level, for the most part, we're talking about a conversation that happens through the leash. So I'll dive first into the food work because that's going to be the majority of this week's focus as far as homework. So I'll send another video that goes into kind of a deep dive of what the system is and how we introduce it, but with her, I'll show a little demonstration of her doing more of the active work. So the first thing that we like to introduce when we're doing food work is a system of what we call markers, and those markers are verbal cues that let the dog know that a reward or a punishment, which I'll dive into that as well, is going to follow. So they're predictors of reward for the dog, and they have a few areas of utility. Mainly they improve the timing of your training, so we're able to give the dog information much quicker than the time it takes to deliver a treat. They will improve your dog's motivation because they build anticipation for the reward. And they just add a little bit of clarity that we are able to implement a little more so than if we just relied on food and movement without the verbal component. So when we're diving into markers, the main 5 that I will use are yes, which is what we would call a terminal marker, and that releases the dog from whatever the behavior is, and lets them know that they can retrieve a treat from me. The second marker is good. That's what we would call a duration marker, and basically that means I want the dog to continue doing what I've asked, and the treat will come to them. So to kind of demonstrate both of those concepts, we'll do it in real time as well, but say I'm asking my dog for a sit stay, I've asked them to sit, I can say good and reward them and expect that they'll stay in that sit position, but I'm still making sitting very rewarding. And I'll use yes to release the dog from the position so that they know the behavior is over and then they can get the food. Sometimes instead of a yes, I'll use another marker, which is another terminal marker. It marks the end of the behavior, but I'll toss the food instead. So I'll use get it for that marker. And so that has a few uses that we'll dive into down the line, but basically it allows me to send my dog from the position in an active way where they can excitedly chase the food down, and we can reset and do another rep and what have you. And then our fourth marker would be very similar to our get it, but it's just go. This one doesn't actually involve the use of food at all. It's just a release from behavior. So if I have my dog in that sit stay, and I want to allow them to break that position, but I don't necessarily want to reward them with food or with a toy, I can just say go, and my dog knows that they are now released to liberty, which is just an alternative reward. And my last marker, which I referenced briefly, is what we would call a punishment marker. It sounds scarier than it is. Typically I'm using that to let the dog know that the behavior that they have given me is not what will earn them the reward. So if I say sit and my dog goes to lay down, I'll say nope, which is my punishment marker. And all that means is that the food will not be delivered. So it's not the delivery of a correction in that moment. It's just saying to the dog, no, try something else, because I want to help them find their way to the right answer. So I know it was a flash description of all of those concepts, so I'll show them in real time to show you what the mechanics of those look like, because it'll make a little more sense as we dive into the practical work. So with Iga, we'll start with just a sit, because it's an easy behavior that she knows. I would do that with your work at home as well. Before we dive into the active work, one other really important detail is what we teach here is what we would call an implied stay for our positions. So I don't teach my dog sit and then stay separately. Any position I have taught my dog, whether it's sit, down, go to your bed, crate, heel, I expect my dog to maintain that position until I've released them from the behavior, either to a reward or to freedom. So I'll show you that in real time as well, but just so that you can take notice as I am working her through positions, I'm cueing her into her behavior. So say a sit. And I'm really just having a conversation with my rewards until I release. So there's no need to add an additional stay. Sit means sit until I've given another direction. All right, so we'll get started. I've got food on me. Ika, sit. Here I'll use my duration marker, so good, good. And I'll use my terminal marker to me, so yes. And I do a little jump back to help her out of position, and then I feed. So it makes it very clear to her when she should wait and the food will come to her, which adds value to the static position. And then it clearly communicates when she's allowed to move from position and return to me. So it builds a lot of handler focus as well. So we'll reset. I'll just get her moving if she's already sitting. I want to be able to cue her in so she knows that we're in a formal position. Sit. Good. Good. Yes. So you see how that builds a little excitement for the food. That's kind of an added bonus of our marker work. She knows that that treat is coming and she gets a little more excited for it. So I'm going to show the alternative to that, which is with a treat toss. So sit. Good. Good. And you want to vary the number of times you reward in position as well. I'm largely just doing 2 as a demonstration, but nope. There's my negative marker. It just says, nope, jumping up for the food won't earn it for you. Good. Waiting will. Good. Good exercise for impulse control as well. Get it. So the only difference there is that I toss the food and use my marker for that. Instead of yes, I say get it and toss to send her away. Good. She's being successful. I can add some variables. Set from that. Sit. Good. Nope. Nope. Here she's leaving position a little early because I've rewarded a lot. Good. Right next to her, so we're adding in the complexity of distance. Good. Nope. A little real-time feedback that I can do for her as well is since we have, with that yes, this is another reason why we would use a get it rather than just a yes in this scenario. She is anticipating that release to me. That's the fun, exciting part for her. So what I can do to counteract that early break to me for the food is I can start releasing her away from me. So I'll demonstrate that. Sit. Good. Nope. Good. Nope. Good. You're all. Get it. Send behind. So that way now the reward is coming from behind her. She's less likely to hyper-focus on me. So we'll do that one more run through. Ika, sit. Good. Better. This part will take a little bit of development. And we're still in early phases, so we don't have a lot of reliability in behavior yet. That's something we'll build over time, and our pressure system will bridge a little bit of the gap. Ika, sit. Good. Nope. little correction in there only because the food is not really enough anymore for her to maintain focus. So just a little reminder of, hey, we're doing something right now. It's not free time. Okay, good girl. So a little bit rough, but this is kind of early phases of just using that marker system to help shape behavior. So she already has a sit, but the stay requires some work. She's pretty content to be right with me, but adding that distance is going to be a challenge for her. She is very handler attached in a good way, but that'll make our stay work a little bit more tricky. And so we'll likely be using our pressure system and clarity in our reward system and a bit of practice to add a little more stability in behaviors. I'm not going to beat this into the ground, but I am going to demo a little bit of how it would look for a down. Same concepts, different behavior. That's kind of the nice thing with a lot of the focus in our training system is on big picture systems for creating or minimizing behaviors. So creating behaviors you want, minimizing behaviors you don't. So even though her sit is fairly good, we're able to use these mechanics in the sit to demonstrate how we would shape and maintain behaviors over time, which is why we put so much focus on educating on these areas so that you're equipped to then follow through with this if you decide that you want to teach your dog something new that wasn't covered in the board and train, and then that way you have these tools in your tool belt for anything you would want to teach your dog. So I'll throw in a down stay. We'll see if she'll play ball with me. If she's a little demotivated, we may bail for the sake of a productive session, but we'll see what happens. Ika. Ready. Down. Down tends to be a little slower for her, but we'll out. We have to do a sit first. I like a down from a stand, but if the best we get is a down from a sit, that's okay too. Good. Just a little less efficient. It's not incorrect. It's just slow. Good. Good. Get it. Good girl. Ika, down. I'm helping her a little with the food. This part will be faded out as she has fluency. Good. Good. Get it. Good girl. We'll do one or two more. Ika, down. Good girl. Good. Notice that nope was just layered in real casually. It just helped her know, hey, you're headed down the wrong path. Good. Down. Here, all I'm going to do is guide her back in. If she breaks early, we just restart. We'll have other tools to add into that at a later point. We're not jumping into that just yet. Good. Now patience is kind of our key. Good. A little off camera, so sorry. Good. We'll do our YPS marker for this one. Yes. Good girl. We'll call it for there. She's getting a little tired. She's losing a little food drive. Pretty typical for her. We like short and sweet, but just as far as a good quick demo of what our marker system looks like and why we use it, and how it is applied to our active practical training work, there's a little overview there. So I'll send a follow-up with specific homework and what exactly to practice, but it'll probably be a main focus of playing around with these verbal communication pieces with food rewards, and we'll have you do a little bit of we do video homework. So you'll have a couple assignments to take a short video and send in. They're very easy, but just so that you can get a feel for what that that give and take communication feels like, and then we can dive into some of the more advanced concepts as we go and as she builds a little more reliability in our target behaviors in the program. So far she's doing really well. These are just kind of those nitty-gritty theory concepts that will make everything down the line much, much smoother if everybody's on the same page. Let's go.